It's been a short ride, but man, it's been a crazy one. The shit we seen and overcame, and all of it has made us some hell of a bunch of kids with stories for the ages of how the hell we got here. You can read it in the pages of receipts and tweets and poems that we left along the way. Every day is something new. I see the look on mama's face. I know this world is sick and it's twisted. The kids never listen. My prince in the system invents on a pistol. I never seen him use it, but he pulled it out a couple times. We talked him down from hitting.
And that was Travis Thompson with the intro music. My guest is a good friend of mine from Los Angeles. He's an actor, comedian, and veteran of the United States Marine Corps. Following his service, he graduated from the Seattle Film Institute and has been featured in various film, theater, and TV projects. I'm excited to welcome Verlon Roberts.
What's going on, brother? It's dude, it's good to see you.
Yeah, man, it's been
a while,
long.
man.
You look good though, man. I like your setup too.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's well, having kids in the house, it's hard to find like any area that's not cluttered with piles of toys or clothes or something. So this is like my only slate that's not covered in something. But
yeah, just like kids' toys everywhere.
Yes, it looks like our house looks like a kid's thrift shop that's not doing well. We're about to go out of business really soon.
You got two, right?
Yeah, twins, man. They're 3.5 now, and I think the last time, you've heard me tell some jokes about them. That was when they were 2, and they're on a different level now, bro. I'm telling you, it's I've done a lot of challenging things in life, but parenting twins, especially at this age, is something, dude.
So they were 2 when I was around you. So how old are they now? Like almost 4?
They'll be 4 in September. So yeah, I think when I met you, they were around 2, a little under. Yeah.
And you were doing good at that point. Like you said to me, you're like, yeah, it's great. It's the best. And now it's like, they're starting to get big.
They are, man. And they're like little teenagers right now. They, everything you tell them, it's no, everything's a fight. I mean, it takes, like this morning, every Saturday we walk to the local farmers market here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not kidding. It took an hour and a half to get out the door. From the time we said, okay, let's go, an hour and a half later, we're taking the first step.
That's crazy.
It's a trip, dude.
That's wild. But yeah, man, it's great to see you. Sorry, your morning started a little slower than you thought it would, but
I'm used to it at this point, dude. I mean, it doesn't make it easier, but I know what to expect. It's always a job.
The confidence though that they have, man, like you get a military background, like you do have sort of a, like, I'm sure when you're serious, it can be like, like, I mean, you're a super nice guy. I've never seen you get like really upset, but when you do, I'm sure you have, that face for it. And just to have like the boldness to be like, no, we're not going outside, or like, screw the farmers market. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, I go there often. I mean, I hate to say it. I mean, any parent that says they don't lose their temper or lose their cool is straight up lying to you.
Yeah.
And so I do lose it, and I mean, that's the reality of it. On a daily basis, I lose it, and but I always try to go back after the point, and I always apologize to them, especially if I yell. I try not to yell. I mean, at that age, it just creates chaos and it doesn't help anything. So I always go back and apologize to them. But yeah, I can turn it on, and they'll get attentive for a second. They'll be like, oh, dad's getting fired up, but still, even at this age, they're ballsy, man. They don't care. They'll stand up to dad. They'll straight up tell me no back. And my son, he loves to wrestle, and he'll get physical with you. He'll like run at you and try to chest kick you.
Does he watch it too? Or like, is he just kind of like, because we just did a podcast on the WWE and it was like super fun reminiscing about like as a kid, my brothers and I would wrestle and we like had the belt and stuff. I mean, he's still only 4, but like, does he try to do what the guys do on TV, or is he's just playing around?
Yeah, he's just playing. I introduced him to superheroes probably a little too early, but he went through a stage where he was obsessed with Hulk. So everything was Hulk smash, and he went through a stage where he legit thought he was a superhero, and he would like take you on, man.
It's wild. That's awesome though.
Yeah.
Did you get him the Hulk hands?
We didn't give him the Hulk hands. He has this big Hulk thing that he's played this big like a action figure that he plays with, and he has a Hulk mask and a bunch of capes
Yeah,
and different masks for every day.
did that. I mean, I dated that girl that her son was like 4 at the time, and I mean, the stuff that they sell at like Target, just like the layers of like kids' toys, it's wild. That whole industry, man, they make so much money. Like, and you go in there as an adult still, and you're like, man, some of this stuff is cool. Like, I would
Yeah.
want this.
Yep.
But, yeah, man.
Every time I go in there, I'm like, yeah, I see something I want. And I'm telling you, if you can find something that's marketable to kids or people's pets, you're set, dude. Because
Oh
people
yeah,
will spend money on their kids and their pets like nothing.
yeah. They won't even think about it. It's
Yeah.
just that pure emotional relationship.
Yep.
Well, yeah, I wanted to have you on. It's great seeing you, man, and I'm glad you're doing well. But you got this interesting background. I talked to Samantha Rund at one point. She's, an actress, and I wanted to have another person that's into acting, but also you have this military background. So wanted to talk both those things and then maybe go through some stories. But wanted to start with like just military. How long were you a Marine for?
So I was in for right at 19 years.
Oh
I
wow.
went in. It's funny. I when I initially signed up and went in 3 days before I was about to go to boot camp. I mean, this was like literally right out of high school. Graduated, was scheduled to leave. I think in like 4 or 5 months,
And
and was
where
just
where were you high school again? I can't. Was it
a very
Georgia?
small town in Georgia. It's about 2 hours northeast of Atlanta, called Blairsville.
Okay.
Um, Literally in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the Blood Mountains. I mean, a beautiful little town. But growing up there is it's a unique experience being
Yeah.
in that small town. We're about 45 minutes, an hour away from where the film Deliverance was filmed, just to give you an idea of where
Dun,
my
dun, dun,
upbringing.
dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
That movie, dude, I can't even watch that movie still to this. Like that, the squeal like a pig scene is. Whew.
Yeah.
So I work in aerospace, and like I was at a cubicle with an older guy that I think he was a Navy guy. And we were just talking about movies, and that movie came up. He's like, "You've never seen Deliverance?" And I'm like, "No." He's like, "You should go watch that movie one weekend." And I watched it. Man, I I don't think I've ever like sat down and watched the whole thing, because it's just, I mean, for the time frame too, like that's wild that movie came out when it did.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
kind of ahead of its time a little bit.
It
But
was. I remember because I'd always heard of it, but I'd never seen the movie until I think maybe my junior year in high school. And I was over at I lived with my best friends my junior and senior year of high school, who were actually twins. So I lived with them, and they were out at a football game, and I had stayed in. And I was like, you know what, damn, I've never seen that movie. Let me watch it. And I'm watching it, and they come home and they're like, "What are you doing? You're home by yourself watching Deliverance. Like, are you okay? What's going on with you?" And
yeah,
I didn't even realize that. I was like, yeah, I guess that is kind of odd.
yeah. The banjo scene though in that movie though is still, it holds up. Like it's pretty badass.
Yeah.
Not to totally sidetrack, but
No, it's
so
good to build a little description of, because it's a unique place, man. It really
yeah.
is. But
And I'm from Vermont originally, and spent a lot of time like East Coast, like smaller towns and stuff. So I think for most people like in the Pacific Northwest that have been here the whole time, it's like all they know. Um, Whereas I feel like I had a kind of a different experience growing up, just being around different types of people. Like it's
Mhm.
people when they hear like the South like that, they a very specific image comes to mind, but it's like not to be simple, but like people are people. Like it's not good or bad. And I'm not trying to get existential right now, but like I guess I know what you mean a little bit by that area. So
Yeah, I mean, it's very, I don't know, like growing up, I always felt because it was surrounded by mountains, and always felt very boxed in. Surrounded by these huge mountains. You see, white people. That's all you see. The people that are born and raised there rarely leave the town, and I don't know. I always had this feeling like I know there's so much more out there. There's different people. I want to experience some culture, and it's just so single layer there, and the military was kind of my escape. Grew up loving action movies. I mean, I would watch action movies and then I would reenact them all weekend long. So the military was kind of like always in the back of my head, like
any specific movie though? Or
um you know like Commando, just, oh, that's in me. And there was one movie called American Ninja.
okay.
I think they made several of them. I mean, very, very B budget action movie, but that's what I loved. I loved those B action movies,
Yeah.
just over the top. But any action movie, I was all over it.
Yeah, that was that around the what I can't remember how old you are specifically. Like was this early 90s or
No, this was I remember watching these movies when I was, I don't know, maybe 8, 9, 10 years old.
okay. So
Yeah.
yeah, I just had like a mental image of like Van Damme and that whole that era
Oh
of
yeah.
movies where just action they weren't great movies, but like as a kid I love that shit, man. They
Oh
were
yeah.
that age from like 8 to or maybe like 7 to 14, like any explosion you're good with, like it's just give me movement and like wild stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, why the Marines though? Like, I mean, if you were just looking to get away, like, was there something specifically about the Marines or?
Yeah, I mean, totally. Like as soon as I started researching it, and early on, I don't know, the Marines, even though I didn't know much about the Marine Corps, there was some type of like prestige or some kind of thing about it, like, ooh, the Marine Corps. And so I started researching, and I mean, my opinion is the most challenging branch. It
Mhm.
has we had the longest recruit training. The Marines are just known to be tough and gritty and hard, and just build toughness in you. And I grew up without a dad. I grew up with a single mom who was terminally ill, and
Oh
she
shit.
did her best, but it's I felt like I was lacking a lot. That you grow up and these fatherly things that gets instilled, and I was like I wasn't very confident. I was lacking a lot, and I was like, I just felt like the Marine Corps would instill those things into me that I felt like I was missing, and they certainly did. So I met with the recruiter, and I knew after that meeting, like I think I called him the next day. I was like, yeah, let's do this for sure.
Hell yeah. Did you
Yeah,
have like a wild boot camp experience or like was it like were you
yeah.
ready for that environment?
Well, I'm gonna back up 1 second. That's gonna lead into that. So 3 days before I was originally supposed to ship off to boot camp, out having fun, just we were out on the lake drinking beer, riding jet skis. Bad combination. We ran into a boat dock, and I broke my collarbone, messed my shoulder all up, went to the ER. I was jacked up. And so I had to call my recruiter and like, hey man, there's no way I'm going to boot camp in 3 days.
What?
I'm in the emergency
Hold on.
room.
I have some questions about this, like, because I've ridden a lot of jet skis. Um, what happened to you physically? Did you go over the front of it, or like, how'd you? Did you just? How big was the dock? Like, paint the picture for me a little bit here.
Well, it's funny because it was like one of those fast ones, I mean, we were hauling butt, and I was driving first. I had my buddy on the back, and
Yeah.
I would just whip the steering wheel, and was throwing him off. And he's like, "Well, let me drive." And I knew he was going to get me back, and so he went to do it. And then when he did it, the back end of the jet ski like clipped the boat dock, but
Oh,
then it like threw us forward, and the jet ski was still going, and the jet ski like hit us. So I don't know. All I know is I flew through the air, and then the jet ski hit me, and then I was in the water, and I went to swim like back towards the jet ski, and my shoulder just like I just felt it like all drop or something, and I was like, "Uh-oh, something's wrong here."
damn, dude. Like, dude, people don't understand how dangerous jet skis are. So growing up, like my dad was with Polaris and we rode jet skis all the time because they made them. And the first time I ever had like a really sketchy experience with a jet ski, we were on Lake Minnetonka, which if you ever watch Chappelle's show, like there's a great Prince bit where he's like, bathe yourselves in the waters of Lake Minnetonka. But I was on that lake and there's some big ass boats on there, and we would just get behind them and like just jump their wake, you know, like it was awesome. And there's this boat called the Mini Haha. Like it's an old, the first boat that would bring people like across the lake, and it would run, I don't know, every hour. It's a ferry essentially. And I'm riding behind this like yacht, just jumping its wake, tearing it up, having so much fun. And I jumped midair, and I see on the other side of the wake, the Mini Haha is just like right there, full of people. And like I basically cranked it like midair so that I could, you know, turn it when I landed. And I just went like straight. I didn't make contact with the boat, but like I washed everybody on that boat, dude. Like anyone who was outside, I just covered them in water. And it's, dude, it's sketchy on those things because you can't really stop either, you know, like
No.
it's, you just like whip, it's almost like being on rollerblades. Like you, there's not a good way to stop. But
Yeah.
sorry for the tangent, but so how long you healed up and then you went to the Marines, or?
Yeah, well, that was the plan. So after the doctor and everything, I was like, "Hey, I'm supposed to go to the Marine Corps. How long should we wait?" And he's like, Probably a year, but we'll see how you progress." And at about the 4 to 5 month mark, I went in for a checkup. Like, "Hey, how's it? How's it healing? What do you think as far as boot camp?" He goes, "I would still wait, another 6 months and give it the full year to heal." But
Were you
but I
just
mean,
on
at
like
that point,
Percocet and shit too?
yeah, yeah, all that. You had to wear this brace that like pulled your shoulders back to get
It
that.
sucks, man.
Yeah, it was miserable, man. It was miserable. But I remember thinking like, "Oh man, I don't want to." Like, I don't know. I mean, I was already running with bad crowds, and I had gotten in trouble and stuff, and I had kind of started to ease back into those bad crowds while I was waiting to go, and I was just like, you know what? I feel fine. I need to change my environment right now. I mean, I saw what my future was going to look like. The people I was hanging out with, I was like, oh, dude, that's where I'm headed.
Yeah. You st-
I don't
you still
wanna
there?
get-
Hold on one second.
Well, what did the doctor say about it? He said, well, he wants me to wait another 6 months. And I said, but I feel fine. And he said, okay, well, we're going to send you. Good luck, basically. And I get there, and 2 days in, my shoulder messes up. It's all jacked up again. And so then I have to go to boot camp's normally 3 months long. And then so now I have to go to a medical rehabilitation platoon to heal my shoulder. And so now I'm there for 2 months longer. It was terrible, man. I stay in this platoon for 2 months where they still treat you terribly. They just can't physically abuse you. They can verbally abuse you, but not physically. So I won't say abuse. I'll say training. It's all good training. But
Yeah.
so you're there, and it's just when you're there, everyone in that platoon is injured, right? So they've had these hopes of dreams, becoming a Marine. They've gotten injured. Now they're in this platoon, and so morale's very low. It's a very sad environment. People are wanting to go home. Some people are trying to stick it out because they give you the option if you're going to be in there a while. Like, hey, look, you can go home. You're here. You can get healed up and then come back. Whatever you want to do. And I mean, every day I thought about going home, but I was like, man, I'm here. I can't go home a failure. I can't go home a failure. And so I stuck it out, got better, got cleared, and then finally got to complete my training, and then got into the real cycle. And it was, I mean, it was everything that I expected and more. We had these drill instructors that were just on another level, man. I don't know how these people go just 12 hours a day, just coming at you like that. Intensity, energy, nonstop, just screaming. It's just chaotic environment from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep. And even while you're sleeping, it's just utter chaos.
Damn. Um, dude, I lost my video here 2-minute stretch where there's no you and it's just me awkwardly like staring at, because the way you froze on screen, it just was like this weird like gesture of you while you're talking about serious shit. But so I'm trying to remember. So you finally kind of got through just all the like rehab stuff or whatever you would call it. Was it
Yeah,
quarantine?
just the medical rehabilitation platoon is what they call it, and so after a couple months, they checked me out and cleared me to go back to regular training. So, I had already been there for 2 months at that point, and then actually got to start the training. Um, so yeah, it was intense, just from day one. These drill instructors are mad, from sun up to sundown, they're just coming at you in intense, just chaos and screaming.
That's just a wild skill set to have. And you had to have had like a really bad childhood to like be able to just be angry all day, every day at people. Like that's and I know it's like a face a lot of times for people, but man, like that's wild.
It is. I mean, there's a process to it, because like the whole thing with recruit training is they want to strip you down. They want to strip you down and build you back up. And so it's kind of in three parts. The first part is they're stripping you down. You literally believe these people hate you. Like, why do you hate me? You don't even know
Yeah.
me, but they hate you, and you just truly feel that. And then about halfway through, you start to kind of see them changing a little bit, and you've changed as well. You're not making the same mistakes that you were, and really, starting to operate as a team, as a unit. And so you're starting to change, and so they start to treat you a little bit different. And then, towards the end, they kind of start treating you like a Marine, and
Mhm.
start getting you ready for the fleet, and treat you like a human being again. But it's our first. We had actually, so you have three drill instructors. You have a senior drill instructor, and then you have two others. And our drill instructors, about a month in, got in trouble because technically they're not supposed to touch you or anything, or physically harm you. Um, well, they were going off on a tangent, and one threw a table, and the table hit this kid in the face. And then another one, we had this, his name was drill
Hit him in
instructor
the
sergeant.
face.
Yeah, table smacked him in
Damn,
the
dude.
face. Kid just went flying. And then we had this other drill instructor. He was this huge, huge. He looked like a basketball player. You know how basketball players just tall, lanky, but lean and muscular.
Yeah.
And he was like that. And he just had these hands with these just long fingers, and he would just jab these fingers like at your face, like while he was yelling at you. And he accidentally poked one kid in the eye with his long fingers. And so after that, there's a big investigation. Those drill instructors actually got sent away during the investigation, and we got a new set of drill instructors. And then towards the end, our initial drill instructors, I guess, got cleared or found not guilty, or whatever they did. So then they came back. So that was unique, because we get used to them, then we get a new set, and then the old guys came back, and it was wild.
Damn. This is something I'm just kind of curious about because I had a couple guys that were in the Navy come on and they talked about boot camp, and they also mentioned that at the point they're probably close to your age, and it was when they were in boot camp, it was after when they could touch you, like prior to they could touch you, but like this whole stripping down and building you up thing, like what's the intent of that? Like what's the, in your opinion, what's the takeaway or what do you get from that experience?
For me, stripping down is stripping down negative habits, habits that are selfish. Because in the Marine Corps, especially in boot camp, I mean, in the fleet combat, I mean, you have to operate as a team. If you're out there trying to do something solo, you know, it's not going to work. You're going to get yourself killed or hurt, or someone else. So you just have to always be cohesive and together in a team. And that, I feel like that's what the main thing they're trying to strip away is just that selfish me
Mhm.
mentality, and then build you back up with confidence and teamwork, and the, you know, just the grit and the will to accomplish any mission, and know that if I have my fellow Marines with me, like, you feel like you can do anything, really.
That's interesting. I sort of was always curious if it was like um kind of mentally getting you prepared for like any environment. And I guess I thought that from like an individual standpoint, but to focus on the group, that makes a lot of sense, right? Like that you guys are there together and you're not like going in there alone. So um,
Yeah.
that's interesting. Neither of the Navy guys said that, said anything about the group. They had some great party stories though, dude. And
Uh,
those dudes,
yeah.
they're they're great. But so you went through boot camp. Like for deployment wise, where were you sent?
So deployments, I did four deployments total. Two to Afghanistan and then two to Iraq. Um, I was my first duty station was actually in Hawaii, which was, I think that's kind of what got me hooked into the Marine Corps, because I, you know, small town, I'd never even traveled. We never been on vacation or, you know, anywhere. And it's like boom, right off the gate, I get to go to Hawaii. I was like,
Yeah,
hey man, this
it's
is all
smart.
right. Yeah. Um, and then, but I really skipped around everywhere: East Coast, West Coast, Japan. But my four overseas deployments, yeah, Afghanistan, twice, and then Iraq. When I went to Iraq, I did 6 months, and then they were looking for some people to roll over. Like, hey, would anybody want to stay another 6 months? I was single at the time, and the money was good, and I didn't have much going on. I was actually stationed here at the time, here at Camp Pendleton in Oceanside,
Hmm.
and I had just gotten there. I hadn't even moved into place because I knew I was deploying pretty much as soon as I got there. So I just rented a room from a guy that I found on Craigslist in Carlsbad, which is a funny story. He turned out to be a drug dealer, and I was like, "Oh shit, I'm going to go down with this drug dealer right before I'm about to go on a deployment." But so, well, I got to tell you about him because now he just popped in my head. But so I had just got stationed to here in California. I knew I was deploying. They were like, "Yeah, don't rent a place because you're leaving in like a month." And so I was renting a room from this guy. And I remember the day I pulled up. I was unloading my truck, just a few clothes and stuff, and the neighbor came over, and she goes, "Oh, are you moving in?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm staying here for a month." Explained my story, and she goes, "Oh," I saw it in her face, like, "Good luck," you know. She goes, "Well, you know, hopefully they're done with the drugs and all the dealing and everything." And I'm like, "What? Tell me more. What do you mean?" And she goes, "Yeah, there was a big bust a few months ago. You know, he was really into cocaine and dealing cocaine, and he was actually, I guess, he got so paranoid that he set up cameras in all of his windows and was spying on the neighbors because he thought that they were gonna turn him in." She goes, "Yeah, it got pretty bad." And then the cops came and he went away for a little bit and then he came back, but it's been pretty quiet since he came back. And then I was like, "Oh my gosh, what do I do?" You know, I'm like moving in this place right now. And I say, screw it. I'm like, okay, I'll stick it out, you know? So I stay, ends up being a very nice guy. It was him and his girlfriend, totally just left me alone. They stayed upstairs. I stayed downstairs. We shared the kitchen, and they were really nice. They would bring me food and everything. And I mean, I never had any issues. But I remember when I was leaving, they were doing some moving around, and the whole time I was living there, they were growing weed upstairs
Hmm.
because they were because he decided he was going to sell the house when I moved out. And so they moved all their stuff down into the garage, and I go in there and there's all these growing lamps and just buckets and soil. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Right up above me was like an indoor, you know, marijuana farm. And
All the aluminum foil on the walls and
yeah.
nitrogen and stuff. Oh, it's crazy that I forgot my I got a cousin that he went to school at Boulder, and it was like 4 or 5 dudes that lived in this apartment together, and they just turned like the master closet into a grow room, and the pictures of it were unreal, man. Like I don't know if people are really doing that anymore, just with how things have changed, but
Yeah.
it's still wild. But um, you said you were like in Japan and on the East and West Coast and stuff. Was there anywhere that you ended up going like that like you enjoyed, like you liked a
You know,
lot?
every duty station I enjoyed for different reasons, you know? I mean, Hawaii, Japan, California, North Carolina, South Carolina. I actually went back to Georgia for a few months. Every place there was things that I really loved about it and things I didn't. I think if I had to pick my best, I would probably say here, because once I got back from that year deployment, I was here in California for about 3 years,
Yeah.
and, um, and I loved it. I just fell in love with California. I was down in Oceanside around the San Diego area. It's the time that I met my now wife, and I don't know, I just made some really good friends and got into some, cool organizations. I was in with a bunch of fellow Marines that we rode motorcycles every weekend, and I don't know, I really established some roots, and it felt good, and I love the outdoors, I love the sunshine, I love the ocean, so I really fell in love with California, and,
You're selling California well right now, man. Like I feel like
I
we could do like a soundbite of you making a
yeah,
California commercial.
hey, I mean, every place has its negatives, but, for me, the weather here, man, I mean, especially coming from Seattle, because I've lived in Seattle for, like, 3.5 years before
Yeah.
we moved back here, and every day I see pictures or something on someone's IG feed about the rain and the
Yeah.
gray, and then I look outside, like, right now, man, right here in front of me, beautiful sunshine, it's gonna be 70 degrees today.
Shoot. Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. So yeah, I love it. I mean, it's got a lot of issues, every state does, but California was probably my favorite. Just mostly the people, because like I said, met my now wife, and we were really good friends at first, and just a core group of Marines that I met that we hung out with a lot and rode motorcycles, and I still keep in touch with them. And, yeah, but each place was unique. Even I was stationed there, a horrible duty station in North Carolina, kinda close to, like, Morehead City, just a very like, even smaller than Blairsville, and, but even that, I enjoyed that. That was my last duty station before I retired, and then, I mean, Afghanistan, Iraq, you gotta go there, man. You gotta check out those places.
Yeah. How, I mean, was that where you saw like active duty mostly?
Yeah, yeah, that's, I mean, you can't not see it there really. I mean, especially like after 9/11. If you were on active duty after 9/11, there unless you were injured, you were deploying. I mean, it's you knew it was gonna happen eventually.
Mhm.
But even my experiences over there, it's made me appreciate everything that we have because you see like just their living conditions and just the state of affairs over there. It just makes you just appreciate so much. I mean, they're fine with it. That's how they like to live and that's their world. And we were kind of over there. I feel like I don't know. I have mixed emotions about that because we were over there so much and I lost friends and now I look like what I don't know, what do we really do? But it's a unique experience, and I think
That
that's
had to
the
have been like for being a small town kid and to experience like that much of a culture shock. That had to have been a lot because there's a lot of people where they've been all around the world and then they still see that and it's still overwhelming. Like
yeah.
that's a big change, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I don't know. I feel like I'm grateful for the Marine Corps just for the exposure. Like, I mean, I've just been exposed to almost any situation you can imagine, and so now I feel like it gives me peace going into today's world, like the pandemic. Pandemic, some shitty situation,
Mhm.
but coming from my past, I felt like I was able to just kind of deal with it. This is our reality, that Marine Corps mission first, just keep going. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's been tough on me at times, but definitely all that exposure has helped me just to deal with it. It's, hey,
Yeah,
it's hard times. We'll get through it.
dude, it's weird. Like, I'm not trying to shit on anybody, but like the past year and a half to just see how different people handle it differently. And I mean, I've always moved around quite a bit and tried not to be like super comfortable wherever I'm at, because I feel like if I get too comfortable, I'm like at risk of finding myself in a position where I'm like, oh, if I lose this thing or I don't have this anymore, I'm gonna be unhappy. And I mean, there's probably some like mental health stuff tied into that, but I just this past year, like it was like, okay, yeah, we can't do this shit. Like, what can we do instead? And like I've just tried to, focus on the things that I can do. And like, I mean, stand up is just coming back here in Seattle now. And um like to not have stand up for a solid year, I mean, that was that's a big loss for a lot of people. But then you look at other people's situation, you're like, man, it it's just incomparable. So I don't know if there's really a point in me saying that, but I sort of feel like some people were mentally already ready for a situation like this to happen, and other people, it's like any amount of change in their life dramatically like made it bad. Like,
Yeah. I think it's a good eye opener for people to realize, like you said, you don't like to get too comfortable, or some people are very comfortable. I mean, think about every single day, the ways that you could go out there and get killed or die. I mean, we're not safe. You're never safe.
yeah,
So I feel like, I don't know. I feel like having that certain level of not being completely comfortable is good, because yeah, you should be comfortable in your environment, but at the same time, you know, so much could go wrong. I mean, look at the pandemic. It's like it came out of nowhere, and people think we're crazy because we moved. We left Seattle right at the start of the pandemic.
some of
Seattle was kind of the hotbed. Like at first, like, oh God, you came from Seattle. We would even get weird looks when we had just moved here, and it's like, yeah, oh yeah, we just moved here. Where'd you move from? Seattle? Ooh, like you definitely brought COVID with you. But it's funny because we look back and we're like, wow, we changed our life right at the beginning of a pandemic. I mean, we sold our house, we moved here. My wife started her own business. I moved here to level up my acting career, and people are like, wow, you did all that during the pandemic. Were you not scared? And we're like, hell yeah, we were scared. But
yeah,
I don't know, we're big believers in taking a risk. I mean, you got one life, so we were like, we were comfortable there, life was good, but like you get too comfortable. You're like, I need some kind of risk. I need to put something on the line. And we did. We put a lot on the line, and it's paying off a lot. We're happy and pursuing our dreams, and it feels good,
dude,
honestly.
yeah. But I gotta say, like, just selfishly, I mean, I was super stoked that you made that move. But man, you were always somebody that whenever I saw you at clubs and stuff for stand up, like, I just like hanging out with you, man. You're good people, and like you have a cool perspective. And I was gonna save this for like the story section, but um, one night I was at Tony V's and I had just started doing comedy, and I just ate shit. It was the first time I really bombed. And I probably was bombing before that, but like wasn't aware of it. This was straight crickets for like 7 minutes. And I got off stage and I was so fucked up from it. Like I didn't know what happened. Like it was all this material I had like worked on and thought it was ready to go and stuff. And I talked to you, and you said this thing to me where you're like, I learn a lot from bombing. Like I always learn if I bomb. And it was just like this sort of like pivotal moment for me where I was like, fuck, he's right. Like it's sort of just how you're looking at that situation, and like maybe you're not seeing yourself honestly in that situation, or taking risks that you have no business taking, or and it helped me a lot. So not to like jerk you off on the podcast, but like I miss having you around, man. Like it I always got something from hanging out from you or with you, and it. But I'm also stoked for you that you're in LA now, and like uh, for like I guess we should just get into some of the acting stuff. Was there anything else you wanted to say marine wise, or
No, I mean, definitely a lot of the traits that I learned in the Marine Corps are helping me in acting. And I mean, you gotta have tough skin. You gotta I mean, in this business, basically, you're signing up to be told no over and over and over and over again, and a lot of times you're being told no for reasons you can't control. So you gotta be oh god, you like, as far as the mental game in acting, and it's similar in comedy, your
Mhm.
mental game has to be so on point because just that constant just someone chiseling at your confidence every day is what it feels like, you know?
Yep.
No, 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 no. So it's definitely those traits of the Marine Corps have I feel like they've set me up for, just all those skills just carry over so well. And it's so helpful to have those. So I'm very thankful for that. And I mean, it's poured into all areas of my life, honestly. So yeah, I'm so appreciative for the Marine Corps. I always look at the Marine Corps as my dad. I look at the Marine Corps as that's who raised me, gave me some really life skills, that my mom couldn't do. So yeah, Marine Corps always has a special place in my heart. Yeah.
Nice. Um, yeah, I didn't I don't want to pry too much about like any of the more serious stuff in that, so I think we'll just move along. Like, so tell me about like how this sort of dream started of becoming an actor. Like, when did that start for you?
I would say when I was that little kid watching those action movies, I didn't think about it at the time, but I mean, that was literally my every weekend, Friday night, convinced my mom, hey, let me rent this movie. So I would end up, we didn't have a lot of money. She'd be like, okay, so you get something from the 25-cent shelf over there, and there's always some B budget action movie that with this killer looking cover on it. You're like, oh yeah, I'm getting that. So go home, watch it. And I would literally all weekend, I would reenact it, pull in the neighborhood friends, maybe some of the neighbors, and I was just out in my yard redoing this movie, and that was my childhood. And then as I got older, I started realizing like, oh, okay, I get it. These people are actors. There's a big production to make all this happen. That'd be cool to do that, but for a kid coming from a small town that doesn't have money, like you don't see any path how to get there. Like, oh, how would I ever get to Hollywood? Like, no, that's so it was a thought and it was a dream, but it was something that just seemed like don't even think about that because
You
that's
can't do that. That's unrealistic or
yeah,
whatever.
exactly. There's no way. So, after the Marine Corps, I loved the Marine Corps and stayed in and still thought about that all the time. Every time I'd watch a TV show or a movie, be like, damn, that just looks so cool,
Mhm.
But and then retired, we moved to Seattle. I started teaching high school and I taught high school for a couple of years up in Snohomish. And I loved it, but every day I was talking to these kids about their dreams. What are you doing after high school? What are you doing this? And every time I'd sit down and talk to one of the students about their dreams or their goals after high school, I would go back to that small version of me and those big dreams. And then I would just think like, oh man, you never got to go for it. You never got to go for it, which is what got me into comedy because I grew up watching SNL and
Mhm.
stand up. I spent a lot of time home alone with just TV and then I remember the day, I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna go do an open mic." And I did it. I went down to the underground and, of course, got bumped, but after, like, 3 or 4 weeks of going, I got to finally go up and get
How
my
did it
first
go
one.
your first time?
You know what? It was all a blur, but I got laughs. It was not silent. I got some decent laughs. Yeah, most of my stuff was, like, dad jokes. I think all my stuff at that time was just silly dad jokes, but, I got some laughs, but it was a blur, but I remember that feeling when I got off the stage, and I left, and I was driving home, man, I had so much energy, I, like, rolled down the windows, I was just screaming, man,
Yeah,
I was
dude.
like, "Wow," like, I mean, I'd never had that feeling before, it was such a just a rush, so So yeah, I kept doing open mics while I was still teaching school, and then the acting thing just started just itching at me, and I still had some money left over from my post 9/11 GI Bill, which is another great opportunity for the Marine Corps.
And how
Started
old
talking.
are you at this time? Like,
At that time, yeah, I'm about 40, 39 or 40.
yeah, you
That
did.
sounds crazy.
Yeah, like I guess that's one of the things I find interesting is I think some people when they're in that situation and it's a dream of theirs, like there's a million excuses, right? Like I'm not going to go back and pursue this because I'm too old or, I can't do it or whatever, and like you kind of didn't buy into any of that and started, I mean, you went back to school, right?
Yeah, I talked to my wife. I was like, "Hey, this is what I want to do," and she was supportive, and I did. I turned in my resignation, my 2 weeks. I finished teaching, and then I think 2 weeks later, I enrolled at the Seattle Film Institute, which is a great school. I'm very thankful for them because I don't know, some really great people there, great teachers that care, great artists, and I got in that environment. And we were only their, I think their fourth or fifth acting ensemble to go through there because they were mostly on the production side, directing,
Mhm.
editing, producing. So they had just really fairly new into the acting side of it.
It's
Um,
wild being in those types of environments though, right? Like, because I did, a week at Second City, which is not long, but like I felt like I was at like MIT for performance. Like you're just around so many people that are open-minded and like creative, and like you end up just laughing your ass off just being around people. Like you just feel comfortable, not judged, and those they're like creative think tanks almost. Like
yeah,
it
it, yeah, exactly.
yeah, I mean, compared to like my college experience, and stand up doesn't always feel that way, dude. Like you sometimes you just feel like people are judging you, and it's kind of a harsh version of that. But um like what what are you going through in that coursework? Like what are the types of classes that you guys are taking?
So at SFI, I mean, we were taking improv, voiceover class, Meisner class, which Meisner is just there's all kind of different methodologies out there of the approach to acting. Meisner is one of them, and our teacher which was actually like another big, super, super cool thing. Our main acting teacher was Amanda Burse, who played Marcy on Married with Children, which I grew up watching. She was the wild
Oh
neighbor
yeah,
that would
yeah.
come over always
Dude,
arguing with Al.
I always had a thing for Marcy.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
She, wow, what a woman. I mean, and she's actually from close to the small town that I grew up in. She's
Oh
from
wow.
Georgia as well. Yeah. So I remember the first day meeting her and we were just talking about Georgia
She
and
had to have loved you, right?
yeah, I like to think so. I
Yeah.
don't know. But I feel like, yeah, we definitely had that unique kind of Georgia small town connection. So I mean, getting to work with her, for a year straight, that was amazing. Like I remember growing up watching her and just seeing what she would do and she would make me just die laughing, or either I would get mad at her because she was being mean to Al.
Yeah.
But
And she had
I mean, it
that
was,
younger guy that she was like the was it Jefferson, the guy's name? Like the
yeah.
super
Well,
handsome, like younger. She was like a cougar in the show.
yeah. Well, first she was married to Steve, who was kind of like a straight laced guy,
Yeah.
and then they split up, and then yeah, she got the younger guy Jefferson, which is a much better dynamic. But yeah, I mean, it was just great, man. And I got so close because there's only nine, I think nine of us in the class.
Oh wow.
So, and it was full time, 5 days a week, every week for a year with
Yeah, I
those
remember you
nine
doing that
people.
and stand up at the same time, right?
Yeah, I would go. Oh gosh, I remember some late nights, man. You know how it is. I mean, you go wait in line just to try to get on hopefully make the list, and then you usually get to go up kind of late. And then I remember getting home, like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. You got to do your 3 to 5 minutes though,
Yeah.
and then
For
be in
the
class the
six
next
people that
day.
are still there. And
Yep, yep.
yeah, but you learn a lot though by watching that shit. Like if you watch 30 people go, that's, 90 minutes of stand up that you're watching, and it's a lot of what not to do, like, and I think a lot of like creative art stuff is like, you don't get better by recreating the wheel. You get better by eliminating mistakes. Like,
Yep.
so, but not to sidetrack. So like, was what of that coursework, like, because I've heard different things about studying to be an actor, and it to me, like, it's this weird thing where I like I don't, it seems like it comes naturally to some people, and like what is the ultimate takeaway from a degree like that? Like,
I mean, I guess the simplest way I can make it is, and there's so many different approaches. And then, and you also, even though you learn that approach, you apply it to your life and you put your spin on it. So it's really different from everyone. But I mean, really at the end of the day, the goal is to find a way for it to be real for you. Whatever
Mhm.
you're doing in that scene, those words you're saying, that relationship that's between you and that other character, your goal is if you can make that real for you, then it will show for the audience. If it's real for you, it will show as real. And you can see it. Like I always, I used to just think, hey, acting is okay. You memorize some words, you go out there and you say them, right? And yeah, you can do that, but it would be horrible acting. But just finding a way to make it true and real and genuine for you, towards where you're really feeling that, whatever that relationship is, whether if you're talking to your mom or your spouse or whatever. I mean, feeling that, like that's in your mind, in your soul, in your body, that's really your mom. You're
so
really that person. Just if
it's
it
like
feels real for you, that's the goal.
acting is to not act, essentially.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's there's actually a big quote. I can't remember who said it, but um, there's some famous actor that's anyway. The quote's something like, "Yeah, the key to good acting is don't let them catch you acting."
Hmm.
It just being so real in the moment that it's just you're just there, with real human behavior. And God, it's so hard to imitate real human behavior. Something we do that's automatically built into us. Every day
Okay.
we do it. But then as soon as you get some text that's that didn't come from your mind, that someone else has written, and relationship you may not be familiar with, it's like you're like a robot. You're like, oh, wait, I mean, you don't even know what to do. You can't even say the words. It's yeah, it's and that's part of it. That's what entices me so much, is the challenge of it. Because to be good at it, and I'm not there yet. I'm far from it. I mean, I've been training for 3 years nonstop. I did the year at Seattle Film Institute, and then I started private lessons with a gentleman in Seattle, John Jacobson. He's an Emmy-winning director, great teacher, great mentor of mine. I started private classes with him, and then moved here, and then I'm now at Lee Strasberg Institute, which is method acting. So many names come from that methodology, and from Strasberg. So now I'm still going to school there full time. I mean, it's one of those things you have to dedicate. Like, you have to dedicate your life to it. You have to always be training. I mean, even the greats, they're in some type of class, or getting coached on if they have work coming up, they're still getting coached. I mean, you gotta take it very serious, and it's fun, but it's the challenge of trying to get good or become great is what's so enticing, because it's so hard, man. It's so hard. You talked about earlier about failing. Every day in class, you fail, you fail, you fail, but each time you learn from that.
It's so weird, man. Like, I think for performance art stuff, and I stand up has some elements of acting in it too. Um, but I think with all this stuff, it's I think of it like kind of like basketball, where like LeBron is the best basketball player in the world. and he might be one of the biggest students of the game.
Mhm.
Like, he never thinks that he has figured out the game of basketball. He's always looking for different things to learn. And I think greats, like the legends of whatever you're doing, like they never think they're better than what it is that they're doing. Like, they're always trying to make improvements and figure out what they're doing wrong in those situations. And then also, like, sort of, I think this like academic approach to stuff is beneficial in some ways because I think it can help you, but in other ways, like, it can make you really tight, man. Like, it's if you start thinking about artistic stuff, like from a rules perspective or whatever, and like, oh, I can't do this, I can't do this, I got to do this here. It just like it boxes you in. And I heard a quote, about art, like, first learn all the rules so that you can break them. Like, and it's this weird balance because, dude, you cannot tell me that you haven't gone to one of these classes and seen somebody there that's gone to every fucking class, and like it's just not clicking for them. Like, they know every rule in the book, but like they haven't trust their instincts or trusted who they are to be real. And I'm not trying to shit on anybody, but like there's some point where you got to go, okay, these are all the things I learned. This is me being me with that influence over here. And a purely academic approach, like, you could train all day every day, but that doesn't mean that when that camera's on you, you're set. Like, there are people that do that. you there's somewhat of a you got it or you don't type thing.
Yeah, I mean, you described it well. I mean, it is. It's, I mean, that's in every acting class or everything. They always say that, like, you do the work, boom, boom, boom. You do all the work, but then when you're on set and you're in front of that camera, you let it go. You
Like
trust.
sex, man. Like, you could read
Yeah.
every manual, but like at some point those lights go off and like you either do it well or you're a heavy breather and creeping someone out. Like, it's
Yep. It's. I mean, it's just a lot of trust. Just trusting that. Really, like, trusting you're enough because, I mean, I relate it to bombing. You were talking about bombing earlier, and you're standing up there on that stage and everyone's looking at you. Such a vulnerable position to be standing there. It's just you. Nothing protects you. And it takes a lot of confidence to stand there and just like, hey, here's me. Take it or leave it. And the
yeah,
same thing with behind the camera, especially when you're listening. That's the hardest part, is when you don't have any lines and you're just standing there and you're just, that's maybe that's just what you're doing in the scene, is you're just listening and you're just standing there, and it's just every time just stops and you're like, oh, I should be doing something with my face. Maybe I should move my hands. I can't just stand here. But then when you watch people, it's like, okay, that's how people listen. We just stand there and we look at the other person and we take them in and we listen. But God, it takes so much. I think it took me probably a year and a half just to feel comfortable enough where I could just stand there with a camera watching me and look at another person and actually just listen to them without feeling like, oh, let me move my face. Oh, does
dude,
this look like I'm listening?
podcasting is in some ways similar. Like, the first like 10 podcasts I did, I don't know what the fuck I was doing, man. Like, I think I was just like, I had seen that this is how people podcast and stuff, but like it was so mechanical. My voice was weird. Like, I just wasn't me at all. And it over like, I think for some people it's just reps, like
Mhm.
at some point, like, Quinn Fitzgerald, he has a podcast, and we were talking about, like, you start out podcasting doing what you think people will want out of a podcast, and then after so many people don't listen and you like sort of just stop giving a fuck, then you realize, like, oh, okay, I'm just going to be me and people will like me or not like me, but like it's not working if I'm trying to be this over here. And
Yep.
there's some like people being naive, like they don't know anything else. Like, it's so bizarre that they don't, like, we as people don't know us. Like,
Yeah.
it but it's just like what you're saying. There's so many things like that where it's those just standing there in the background like this. It's just weird.
It is. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to put yourself out there, and like you said, reps. That's so much of it. Is just having the tenacity to be like, hey, you know what? I love this. I want to get great at it, and I'm going to keep going until I am, because it's not easy. God, it's not easy. Like yesterday, I mean, just pursuing this dream is so friggin' hard, man. Like, well, most auditions have been over Zoom, which is great because you don't have to leave your house, you don't have to sit in traffic. Well, slowly they're starting to become some in-person auditions, and I had one yesterday that was in person. That was in down in Los Angeles. We live up in Torrance, Redondo Beach area, like kind of like driving from Seattle to Everett. It's very
Yeah.
similar mileage wise. Which no traffic is like 30 minutes with traffic. Yesterday one way coming home, it took me an hour and 45 minutes to get home, an hour to get there for an audition that I think I was there 20 minutes maybe.
Sounds like
So
a
that
great opportunity to listen to the Fathom and Friends podcast on that
I I was, my friend.
drive. But
The so it's not easy. And then like before that, I was in class all day. And then yesterday morning had a big audition, like a huge opportunity come in that's due Monday morning. So I have that in the back of my head and I'm in class. And then I got to leave class early and drive down to this commercial audition, which is another huge, big opportunity. And and then while I'm down there, I get another email. I have another audition. That's another huge opportunity that's due Tuesday. And I'm still driving. And then so I'll
you
get
gotta
back.
play it cool at every one of these, right? Like in all of those situations, like you're stressed to the gills, and in every single one of those, the expectation is you to be like your best self, you know?
Yeah, it's hard because and a lot of casting directors will say this, like if you come into the audition or even if you're self-taping, they said we can see it. If you if you need that too much, if that's like all you're thinking about is how much you want to book that, you're not going to get it because
Yeah.
that's what we're going to see. We're not going to see you. We're not going to see that character. We're not going to see the story. We're going to see someone that's just needy and that's just like, oh, I need this. I want this. I got it. So you can't. It's funny. You
You
have to
can't give a
try
fuck that much.
100%. Yeah, you have to try without trying. You kind of have to just say fuck it. And that's where I'm at. So I told myself like every audition I get, I've already won. That's it. I got the audition. That's a win.
Hell
I'm
yeah.
done. I won already. Sending in the tape, that's the icing on the cake. Send it in, forget it. I mean, because honestly, chances are, if you look at the numbers, you're not going to get it. Just looking at the numbers, you're not going to get it. So have fun with it, do your best, learn from it, and send it off into the universe. And if it's for you, my feeling is if it's truly for you and you've put in the work, eventually you'll get rewarded. I believe that. And that's where I'm at. Each audition, I'm super excited. I'm just thankful just to even have that opportunity. But it's hard. It's so time consuming, and balancing family life. I get home yesterday from driving. I have the two big auditions to prep for, but I also want to be a great dad and a great husband. So a lot of early mornings, a lot of late
Yeah,
nights.
how much are you sleeping?
I mean, luckily and thankful to the Marine Corps, I can get up at 5 a.m. like nothing. I mean, I can get up at 5 a.m. and, after 10, 15 minutes, do stretching, do some breath work, and I'm ready to go. I'm
Yeah.
awake. I'm ready to go. So yeah, that's usually
Dude,
my
you're
routine.
yoked too. Like, let's not pretend like you're not in fucking great shape. Like, i- are you working out like pretty much every day too throughout all this, or like,
Yeah. Well, we've been lucky because with the pandemic, like as soon as we got here, all the gyms shut down, and that's a big stress relief for me. Like I wasn't in shape as a kid. I was out of shape. I was when I went into boot camp, I could do 2 pull-ups, and that's exactly what you needed to be able to do to go to boot camp was 2 pull-ups. I didn't really know what healthy eating was. I mean, I never even thought about that. No one ever really taught me about it. Then you get in the Marine Corps and you see it's very physical environment, and you're even graded, on your physical fitness test. It plays into the factor if you're going to get promoted or not. So they hold you to a standard. And it just became such a part of my routine that now it's just built into me. I know every day I'm going to do something. Now it's not what it used to be. Used to I could go to the gym and spend, a couple hours and it was no big deal. But now it's just a balancing act. If I only have 20 minutes, I'll go out in the backyard and I'll put in a hard 20 minutes. And that's, that's good enough for the day. Because you can get in a great workout. It's just all about the intensity, if you're playing on your phone. But if you go out there for 20 minutes and you really put in work for 20 minutes, that's enough.
Yeah.
It is. And my wife and I are both personal trainers. So we have our own gym equipment, and we set up our backyard here during the pandemic to keep us it's like our little playground. We have all the kids have a bouncy house, a little slide, and we have all of our weight equipment, and it's really helped out a lot. That's
Yeah,
like our
I check
happy
out your
place.
stuff. Like, you always put up fucking great videos on Instagram, so I've been creeping on it. Like, I was, I'd work out and stuff, and I was always curious, throughout the pandemic, like, are people getting it in, or like, how did they make it work? And I thought it was actually kind of fun to, like, how do you make the adjustment to where, like, if you don't have this gym full of equipment, how do you take care of yourself? And um I had fun, like, just learning different calisthenic type workouts, and like how to push your body without all this accessory and extra shit. You get some rubber bands and, like,
Yeah.
your body weight, and you can push yourself.
You can, and that's the thing is, like, a lot of people think, oh, I need all this time, I need all this equipment, I need this expensive gym membership. But really, if you want to work out, you can find a way. Like, I mean, body weight, I could do just body weight every day and be fine with it.
Mhm.
Really, I mean, I enjoy it. That's enough. It really is.
Yeah.
And you
Uh,
lost like a ton of weight, didn't you?
for what do you mean?
I
Like,
mean, like through like early on in your between where you are now and early on in your life, didn't you lose like
dude, it's so stupid. Like, so I I definitely wasn't that big. Like, my brother just was a jerk, like, he was that bully type brother. So he I had, like, cheek fat, like, they'd call me Chubs. And so then he'd call me Fathom, which is like a great mean name to call, like, for, I mean, it just hurt my feelings so much. But, like, I when I was younger, I got into smoking weed pretty early, like, I don't know, 12 or 13. And dude, I just ate the house. Like, and a couple years after doing that, I like quit, and I think I lost like 60 pounds in like 2 months, just from, not going hard on, it was always these like frozen pizzas, like those personal pan frozen pizzas, which is like, if you want to gain weight, go get yourself a couple of those, like,
yeah.
Tombstone personal pizzas. I would eat like two of them a night, and that's like eating two Chipotle burritos. It was unreal. But yeah. Anyway, I actually queued up some of your voiceover work, and is it all right if I play one of them?
Yeah, play it.
All right. It's weird, like, I'm gonna be looking at you through this, so I'll probably look away.
In 1951, Toyota introduced the Land Cruiser. Today, we have the most extensive line of sports utility vehicles in America for families and individuals. And like the original, all of them are designed to get you there and back. No one likes to feel stuck, boxed in, or held back, especially by something like your cloud. It's a problem. But the IBM Cloud is different. It's open and flexible enough to manage all your apps and data secure, anywhere, across all your clouds. Sorry about what happened to you, dude, but I can't call 911 because I got a cheap cell phone plan. How well does your financial advisor know you? At Ameriprise Financial, we see you as more than a client. That's why our advisors care about what's important to you, giving you the freedom to live financially confident. With the right financial advisor, life can be brilliant. Ameriprise Financial.
Dude, some of those are really solid too. Like the the cell phone one is great. That's funny as hell.
It's funny. I hadn't even listened or heard from that like in a long time. It's so funny. It just brings back a lot of memories. But yeah, voiceover's fun, man. Definitely want to get more into that. And that was kind of like my first big gig out of school in Seattle. Is I get out, they have an agent showcase at the end of school. So I signed with an agency there, Topo Swope in Seattle. Great agency, great people. Shout out to Tim. Thank you. But that was like one of my first auditions, was auditioning for the video game Halo Infinite, which was supposed to already be out. But with the pandemic and everything, and then I think they had some leadership changes. So now it's pushed till later November of this year. But I remember that audition. A friend of mine that also, shout out to Cade Morrison, a good acting buddy of mine, went to SFI together. We both had an audition for that video game. We were just out of school. We're like, yeah, all right, first one. And it was a SAG job, because it's very hard to get into SAG. You want to get into the union, because that's kind of when you get into the bigger opportunities, the bigger auditions. It was going to be a SAG job, and everyone says in Seattle, like, oh, it'll take you 4 to 5 years to get SAG in Seattle, if ever, just because there's not a lot of SAG work there.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember that audition. We were so excited. We were like, oh, wow, auditioning for Halo, and we both got it. We both got it and booked it, and we got to go in and shoot together. And I got called in a couple more times to do some more shoot days. Actually, right during the move, I remember my high school friend and I, because he flew out to Seattle, and we drove my dog and one of our vehicles here. And then I had to turn right back around and fly back to Seattle to do some more, a couple more days for Halo. So yeah, that was my first experience.
So you're in the game though?
Yeah. So I'll be Spartan Griffin. And
how did this not come up at any point? This is awesome, dude.
Well, I mean, hopefully they may, who knows, they may have edited me out of the game. I mean, it's not released yet, so I don't know. But
how cool
yeah.
is their like headquarters? So did you go to the Bellevue spot?
Yeah, like at 343 Studios. Man, so you do the voiceover and then the motion capture. And I'm telling you, you want to talk about, kind of going back to childhood and playing just with your imagination. That's what it is. 'Cause you're just in a big open warehouse, and you have on the tight spandex with the dots all over you. But you have to create your world. I mean, you're in there just in a warehouse with blank walls and a bunch of cameras, and you're supposed to be this badass Spartan in the future fighting these aliens in this crazy world, and you just have to build all that with your imagination, because you're just here. And I was acting opposite the actor that does the motion capture for Master Chief. And Master Chief is like 7-8 foot tall. This guy's probably my height. So to get that height, he wears a baseball cap with a stick on it with a tennis ball. And that's what you're looking at. And you're talking to while you're doing these scenes, as you're looking at this tennis ball. And so just, trying to make that as real as possible while you're looking at a tennis ball in this warehouse is, it was a great first experience, because that was like my first big time
That is
gig.
wild as fuck. Like, that is unbelievable.
It was so fun.
I interviewed with them. I guess Bungie is the company.
Mm-hmm.
And I like submitted for a job interview with them, and it was the weirdest job interview I've ever. It was for a tester job, and I had just dropped out of law school, and I had some like downtime, a couple of months, and I was like, just try to get this job. And they wanted like a tester, and they just kept asking me questions like that. Oh, they put me in a situation like, okay, you have a rocket launcher. Tell us everything you can think about it. And in hindsight, like I think it was a lateral thinking exercise. Like how many, like what are all the different ways that you can look at this? I had like four. Like I just kept going like the explosion. Like I didn't know what else they wanted me to say. And like they're trying to look for creative people. And I'm just like giving them the facts of the situation. And they're like, yeah, we don't think this is gonna be a great fit for you. But I did I did get to go over there and see all their like life size, like the lobby of that place is just worth it to go in and be like, oh yeah, I got this is the wrong address or whatever. Like just go in there and pretend because it is badass, man.
Yeah.
It's sick,
Yeah.
but that's
That's funny.
wild. Um, I guess I want to be respectful of your time. So, um, is there is it weird to put you on the spot to do like a McConaughey impression, or can you do a
No,
little bit of that?
yeah, I'll whip one out. I mean, recently, because I don't know if you read his book, but first of all, the book's awesome.
Is it?
Yeah, I think it's a good read. Um, just looking at it from his life, because he's had an interesting life, and I don't know, I really respect people like that because he didn't come from, some family that was already into Hollywood or some family that's worth millions. Very blue collar. His dad was like in the oil business, very blue collar family, and with what he's created out of that, it's interesting read, man. I would read it. But he on his Instagram, he posted a challenge out there, like the Matthew McConaughey challenge. Let's read an excerpt from my book and see who can. But I posted one. He never reposted mine. He reposted some others, but yeah, it's funny because people tell me that all the time, like, "Oh, you sound like him." Like, I don't hear it. And my wife's the same way. She goes, I don't know why people say that. I don't think you do." But yeah, I do get that a lot. And it's funny because I've actually been trying to work on kind of hiding that accent a little bit and work on just my more just general American, because
Can
having a
you do
little
that for
Southern.
a second?
I'm sorry.
Can you do that for a second, just like so I can hear it? 'Cause I love when people do the accents to hide their accent. I think it's really interesting.
Yeah. Well, let me see if I can just. Yeah, I mean, I just work on, really just trying to hide that twang a little bit and not stretch out my vowels. I feel like a lot of it is in the vowels and how you say it, and especially the I's. Um, I don't know. I don't know how that came
Yeah,
across,
I kind of
but
put you on the spot too, so it's
yeah. But that's something I'm working on because it puts you in a smaller box, having a Southern twang, because there's a lot of on most of the breakdowns, that's what they're looking for, is just a general American accent. But I like to keep a little bit of it because it's what makes me me. What makes me unique and unlike everyone else. So I don't want to. I don't ever want to lose it.
it's kind of stupid too that like there's that built-in um bias against people with a southern accent, like especially nowadays, like it's sort of ridiculous for like the industry people to be like, well, we're okay with being inclusive about this stuff over here, but if you have a southern accent, like you're fucked still. Like it's just it doesn't make any sense to me. Like if you're gonna be inclusive, at least be inclusive across the board. Don't like pick your spots, but
Yeah,
that's
it's
that's the entertainment industry.
It is, and I mean, that's one thing. I mean, that's part of the business is there's a lot of different boxes, a lot of different boxes that you either fit in or you don't. So I mean, it's part of the industry, and you just got to kind of deal with it. But I mean, good thing. I think the industry's changing a lot. I think we're starting to see a lot more acceptance on people's backgrounds, race, gender, whatever. It's really starting to open up a lot more.
Probably
Um,
help getting that Harvey guy out.
Yeah. Exactly. It's a, yeah. Yeah, the dark side of Hollywood. Well, that's another one of my goals is like, I don't know, Hollywood gets a black eye, but I don't know, I want to be a good guy. I want to be like, hey, you can be a successful actor and also be a good human being. You know, you can thrive in this industry and still do good things. You know, I mean, look at the Rock. I mean, everyone who doesn't like the Rock, right? I mean, shoot, he may be our president one day. I mean, and that's my goal is I want to be the white version of The Rock, except I'll go by crack, right? Fast and the Furious 20, now with crack. What do you think?
That I do. If there's a guy that can do it, I hope it's you. Like I'm all in. Like, um, back to the McConaughey thing though. Do you get like any like? I love Dazed and Confused. Like, it's one of my favorite movie. You got any lines from that movie or like?
Yeah, I got a famous one here. Let's see. Let me pull in my inner Matthew. And I pulled up and I said, all right, all right, all right.
That's solid, man.
And it's I'm telling you, read his book. It's great, and he has a funny story about that movie because that was kind of like that was his first big gig, and he went in there, was only supposed to work 3 days on it, but he went in and he had something to bring to the table. He didn't just show up and be like, okay, these are the lines you want me to say. Okay, I'll say those and then get out of the way. You know, it's the process is collaborative. He had some ideas, you know, he had some ideas, even though he was new, he had the confidence to bring up his ideas and, hey, how about if we do it like this? Or how about if he said this, you know? And the directors saw him, they took him serious. Like, oh, this guy's here to collaborate with us and create. We're That's what we're all trying to do. We're here just creators trying to make something that's entertaining. And he ended up working like 3 weeks on the thing and got a lot more lines, a lot more days. I mean, it's a lot of lessons. Yeah, a lot of lessons.
That's awesome though. In my head, I was just thinking like that's probably good advice for people that are like, dedicated and doing it, but people that are just like, kind of like a wild card going in there, like there's a balance to that too, right? Because if you just go in and you're just trying to make the movie like into how you want it to be, like it could easily, you got to have the ego drop a little bit in that situation, because some director is going to be like, dude, we just want you to stand in the background, please shut up. Like it's
Yeah. You gotta find your balance. I mean, I think it's good to have some ideas, but you have to realize, and it's funny because especially on a set, it's run a lot like the military. There's a very specific, detailed chain of command. You know who's in charge, you know who's running the show,
His time
and
is money.
yeah, so much money. You don't, oh yeah, you don't play with these producers' money, you know. So if you have an idea, present it. If they're like, hell no, shut up, go stand on your mark and say these lines, Roger that. That's what I'll do. But at least you tried, you know, at least you tried to bring in some of your creativity and your ideas. But I think most directors would at least listen. I'm sure there's some out there would be like, no, this is my show.
Yeah,
And you'd be like, and you respect that and be like, okay.
yeah. It's Dude, speaking of the money thing too, like I read an article, I think it was in the Wall Street Journal, about the impact of COVID on like just production sets. And because they had to pay for like, it's basically like airplanes for them. Like there's no more buffet for you to go and get food at. There's social distancing, and it just leads to more money on the production side. And I think they said like, God, what was it? It was per day. I brought this up and I didn't know what the actual number was, but it was a ridiculous amount of money, like maybe like a 30% increase in cost per day on
Yeah,
production sets,
I
just because of COVID restrictions.
yeah. I mean, it's a lot. From what I heard on like a major production, a big production, they're saying go ahead and tack on an extra $1 million for COVID, for testing, all the supplies. I mean, how you have to handle everything. If it's a big production, they say go ahead and tack on an extra $1 million. Like last month, I had just a little day player role in this in this indie series that's coming up. And I had like a couple lines, was on set for maybe like an hour. But I mean, just to do that, drove down for testing like 4 hours before it's supposed to be on set, show up. They had requested the wrong testing. It was supposed to be rapid testing because they needed like 15-minute results. So I tested that, and then they were like, "Oh well, we won't have your results for 2 days." So I had to call over production. Hey, they're saying I'm not going to get results for 2 days. So then they had to jump through loops to get a rapid tester on site. So then drove over to the studio. They had a rapid tester on site. They had already paid the other tester to test us all, but it was a mix-up and it wasn't rapid. So then we had to get tested again, rapid, and they were saying just that alone, there's just so much money and time to get everybody tested.
And you're just in this small part for it too, you know, like
Yeah,
you multiply that across hundreds of people, and I mean, it's wild. But
yeah, it's but I mean, luckily we're at a point now to where productions are finding a way to do it. They found a way
yeah,
to safely do it. They're just forking out the money, which is good because I mean, I don't think it's completely open yet, but I think we're about 60-70% back open as far as everything that's shooting. So we found a way to deal with it, and it seems to be going okay.
nice. All right, let's go into the storytelling segment. We're running a little long, so I'm gonna play this music. I'm like contractually obligated to. And then let's get one story you got from either acting or Marines. So I think your kids might like this song.
Everybody sit down, please. Everybody sit down, quiet, please. Everybody sit down, listen carefully. Everybody sit down, please. It's story time, it's story time.
It really sets the mood for the story. I had someone on recently, and they're like, that song, it sounds like it's going to end like 8 different times.
Yeah. I like that. I had to play that for my my twins. They love stories. Every night they want me to. Now, they used to like books, but now they want made up on the spot, improv stories, which is fun. But I've been doing it the last 6 months, and I'm running out of freaking stories, man.
Yep.
But it's good to keep the definitely keeps my creative side of my mind open. That's funny. Let's see. Stories about the military. Wow. Let's see. Well, I
Or
told you about my.
it can be like auditions or acting stuff if you like got anything like that too. So
Okay.
whichever you prefer.
Let's see here.
I'm like one of your kids right now. Just putting you
Yeah,
on
I
the
know.
spot.
I feel like I told all my good stories. Not good stories, but like. Okay, I have a kind of a funny story from the military. So on one deployment, the job that I was doing is what we would do is basically we were transporting cash between different bases. It's funny, but we use a lot of cash over there. I mean, I'm talking millions and millions of dollars. And so we were taking we had $70,000 with us that we were going to be flying in an Osprey over to. We were at a small little forward operating base, and we are going to take that money back to the bigger base to buy buy some stuff from the PX to bring back at the smaller base. And I was
What
traveling with this other Marine.
PX?
PX is like just like a store, it's like a store that's because I mean we set up little stores when they're deployed and try to make it as comfortable as possible on on the bigger bases. But the smaller bases, what we'll do is we'll travel back to the bigger bases and bring some of that stuff to the troops that don't ever get to see it.
Yeah.
So we were going to fly out. We were flying out on Osprey. I was traveling with this other Marine who's he's a good guy, but he's just one of those knuckleheads, man. You know, someone that just finds a way to fuck up anything. They can just, I mean, they could break a bowling ball, you know? It's like, anyway, so he had this briefcase. Um, I was carrying this other gear. He was going to carry the cash. And he had this briefcase and he's like, "Hey, can I carry the cash in the briefcase?" And I was like, "Why do you want to carry it in the briefcase?" And I can't remember what his reason, but I knew he just thought it would look cool,
Yeah,
him
that
walking through the
sounds
desert with a
exactly what
briefcase
it
full
would
of
be.
money, right? And I was like, he was younger. I was like, "Okay, I'll let you have your fucking moment. You know, take the money in the briefcase. I don't care." So Osprey lands. We're running out through the desert to jump on. The briefcase pops open. The propellers are spinning, dust kicking up. What's it do? It kicks up this $70,000 of money is flying everywhere. Marines are running from everywhere to try to grab it. We're trying to grab it. It was disaster. It was a disaster. Money flying everywhere. I mean, these Ospreys, they don't like to stay on the ground long. They like to land, pick up whatever they're picking up, and get the hell out of there. And we're sitting there, money flying everywhere. And we eventually get it all. We get on. I mean, I'm sure we just look like just a bag of shit, you know.
Are you wearing like full gear too?
Yeah, I mean, have all your gear, everything, rifles, you know, and and we get on, and of course, this would be my luck is I get on and there's this mate like there's this general on board. I mean, he's the guy, you know, like the head guy over there, general. And I
You
look up
walk
and I
in with
see him.
Tweedledum and like fucking
Exactly. I'm like adjusting myself. I remember I can see it so clearly. I sit down. I'm like, oh God, that's over, you know. And he's the first person I make eye contact with. And I just look up, and he's looking at me, and I'm looking at him. I look down. I see who he is, and he just looks at me and just and looks back down. And I just felt so horrible. He just looked at me like, yeah, you guys idiots, huh? But, I don't know, that moment for me was just 'cause I play it like a movie in my head, like, if I'm out here watching these 2 Marines running through the desert, briefcase pops open, money starts flying everywhere, they're trying to, you know, chase money through the wind, that I don't know, that was,
you got to write that down. Like that could actually be a pretty like hilarious scene in a movie. Like
yeah,
like
yeah,
that sounds like something that would happen like that Jarhead movie. Like
yeah,
where they like fuck up and I don't it's very real too, you know. It's
mhm,
so many of those stories in life like you it's like this kind of oh that's kind of funny thing, but to like anybody else it's really fucking funny because it's absurd, you know, like compared to everything else you guys did over there it probably seemed pretty tame, but like it's yeah, that stuff's great. And then one bonus question before I let you go. Like favorite performance of like anyone in a movie all time.
mm. That's tough. I mean, there's a lot of good ones out there, but I can tell you who is someone that I look up to and is probably my favorite actor for many reasons is Ed Harris.
Yeah.
Ed Harris, I mean, he's a great actor and he's done it all from the Truman Show to The Rock. I mean, he's his flexibility in acting is amazing.
Dude, he's kind
But
of like a quiet like talent, you know what I mean? Like he like Philip Seymour Hoffman was kind of that way too, where it's like he just had these monster performances, but he never got the love that like he deserved just for how good he was. And Ed
yeah,
Harris is in was he in October Sky?
I think so. I think so. Yeah. I mean, he's been in I mean, because it's you know you've heard of him, and there's like a couple key movies that you remember him from. But when you look him up on IMDb Pro or something, he's been in so much stuff.
Yeah.
But there's one performance because I love watching theater, and theater to me is kind of like stand up because you get up and stand up, and it's live. There's no one to call cut. Hey, cut that didn't work. Let's run it again. You know that's a good thing about TV and film. It doesn't work. You know, cut. Let's run it again. But you know, stand up or theater, you're there, man. You're there and you got to bring it and you got to deliver right then and there. And that is a feeling like no other. I remember doing my first play in Seattle, and wow, I mean, what an experience. But Ed Harris, and you can actually watch it on Broadway HD. It's from my favorite playwright, Sam Shepard. It's called Buried Child. And his writing, I don't know, his writing resonates with me because he's from a small Midwest town, and a lot of his life experiences are similar to mine. I relate to a lot of them. But Buried Child is an amazing story. But Ed Harris in the play Buried Child, I don't know. I think that's a performance that sticks out for me. It's on Broadway HD. If you want to catch some cool theater, yeah, that's
Dude, it's crazy because as a kid, I hated Broadway stuff so much. Like my parents brought us to see Cats when we were like 7, and like still to this day they'll be like, "You guys want to go see Cats?" And like it was 3 boys, like 7, 9, and 5 watching Cats like in the first row. I mean, you couldn't pick a worse play. But like as I've gotten older, like I saw Wicked, saw some of these other plays, and it's really like captivating. And I mean, I get it now. Like I don't think I would see Cats, but but what? Oh, he was in Beautiful Mind too.
yeah, yeah,
That
yeah,
was where he just like that character he played. That was so dope, man. Like I love that. Like because he's a secret agent type, or
yeah.
he's like, um,
Yeah, he's kinda
CIA.
in the imagination of, I think Russell Crowe is who played the
The
main character.
Yeah,
I think he's kinda
schizophrenic
like the
ideations or whatever.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a great movie. That makes me wanna go back and watch that one.
Dude, it's so good. Like that's a movie. Like Shawshank is a rewatchable movie, but like it's
Mhm.
been rewatched so many times, you're like, God damn, like Shawshank is on again. Like
Yeah,
you see it too much. But if Beautiful Mind is on, like I'll watch 30 minutes of that anytime it's on TV. Like
yeah,
especially the dynamic that he had with his roommate, like in the movie, like his because that's the first ideation where he like it's totally you have no idea as the viewer that this is a fake character, and it's so real too. So it's nuts. But anyway, is there anything like where can people find your stuff? You on social media? Where can people learn more about you?
yeah, just, Instagram is mainly where I spend my time. I don't know, something about Instagram I enjoy. Um, Website, verlonroberts.com. That's pretty much it. But, before we go, I just gotta say, hey, I remember the first time that I met you was at Tony V's. I don't think I'd been doing comedy all that long, but I remember you getting up there, and it was like it was a new face. It's like, oh, it's always fun when you see like a new face at open mic. Like, oh, let's see what's gonna happen. Here's someone's new trying. But I was with another guy. I can't remember his name, but he knew you. He was like, oh, this guy's pretty good. And I remember you doing your set, and I was like, and you killed it, man. And I remember thinking like, wow, if this guy is new and he's just really getting started and he's already there, then I remember telling myself, if he sticks with it, he'll be great. And then that moment I truly believed it. And then here we are now. You're still sticking with it. And you stuck with the podcast. I mean, it's so many people are like, oh, I want to start a podcast. And then they may do a few episodes and stop or whatever. But your tenacity and everything, I just want to say I have a lot of respect for you. I
Thanks,
see
bro.
your work. I see you putting in the time. And I'm not going to be surprised one day when I turn on the TV and you have a special on Netflix. I'm going to be like, I knew it. Oh, I mean, I won't be shocked. I'll be like, I friggin' knew it, you
And
know?
then after that, it'll be the Verlon Roberts show, man. We'll do it doubled up. I appreciate it though, man. Thank you. It's crazy. Like, I felt like I was 30 when I got into like performance stuff, and was the first thing in my life where I found like these are my people. Like
Mhm.
I just didn't feel weird anymore. I mean, we're all kind of weird. I mean, I think you're trying to fill something up by doing this. Um, but just the best stories, the most interesting people. And like, I just, whether something ever comes of it or not, I don't necessarily care. I just like, it's like you said, like you're taking this risk and you're living your life like in a real way. And it just feels good, man. Like I just, there were so many nights like in my 20s where I would go to sleep. Like I had watched 2 movies on Netflix on a Saturday, and like, I didn't feel like I was following that dream. Like, you were talking about, and it's, dude, it just, you feel like you're living, like you're actually living life. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's dope. And to get to do stuff like this, man, I would really recommend. I mean, if you got the audio set up now, like doing a podcast, I've learned so much just by talking to people and being like committed, having those deadlines, and like consistently doing it. It has taught me a lot too. So I know you got a lot on your plate. Like,
Well, I want to run an idea by you, because here's what I want to do. And it's going to be kind of ran like a podcast. But as I mentioned, having the part in Halo. So right now I'm just doing my research, because I don't really know much about Twitch. But what my idea is and my goal is I'm working towards, and I'm trying to plan it around the time that Halo comes out. And hopefully in the future, I'll get some more opportunities, do some more video game work. But I want to set up a Twitch channel where, I play these games, but I bring in these actors that voice the characters, these actors that do the motion capture, and we play the game together on Twitch stream. And then fans of the game, like Halo has a huge following.
oh
It's a
yeah,
very cult following, and I'm sure these fans would love to come on Twitch and see the people that voice these characters and watch them play the game, even if they don't know. Most of them, like some of them are um are older people and they don't even play video games, but that would even be more fun. Maybe that's the first time they've ever even held a controller, but they're playing the game that they're in. Fans can watch us and we interact with them and just have fun playing video games. So that's my idea.
yeah. I mean, the level of cross promotion there, it's so good. Like, because you're getting people that are already interested in that type of stuff in the same place together. So hell
Hmm.
yeah. Like as long as you're having fun with it, like I think the biggest thing that I've learned with podcasting is I sort of, if I could go back to the beginning, maybe would try to book less on like, how do I attract an audience versus like who are the people that I like to be around and I like to laugh with, and then just sort of go from there and see what works, but have fun with it. Like that's the biggest thing, because if you're not having fun, it's going to show and it's going to be work. And
Yep,
so
it's funny you say that, because I just did a post about that like a couple months ago. Just in my acting work and my process, I was like, I don't know, I have this problem where I want to be good. I try to be perfect, and life's not perfect. We're not perfect. So if you're acting and you're trying to create this character perfect, it's not going to be real, because we're not perfect.
yeah,
So I don't know, my work just felt very technical and clunky, and like you were talking about earlier, kind of process and technical steps. Um, and I woke up one day, I was like, okay, drop that, get it out of your mind. Fun, focus on the fun. Go back to why you got into this, because it's fun playing with your imagination, creating these environments. And I had a key audition that popped up that's for a Nickelodeon show. um and it's just a silly, fun kind of a tween show. And I was like, okay, here's my opportunity, I'm gonna have fun. And I had so much fun on that audition. um I mean, I didn't book it, but I took so much away from that, and it brought me back to the fun. So yeah, I mean, you hit such a strong point there, because if you're not having fun, why are you doing it? And if you're not having fun, it's going to show. I don't want to watch someone that's up there that's you can just see them, you can see them working, like I want to see someone having fun. I want to see someone enjoying themselves on the stage. Like, yeah, we're laughing and you're laughing, we're just having a moment together.
yeah, you didn't get into this because it's work.
Yeah.
Like yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into it, but it's funny you say that, dude, because last night I opened, and I was at Laughs for Andrew Rivers, and I I don't know what it was. I don't know if I just like didn't get enough sleep the night before, or some, like the guys that I was on the lineup with, like, I'm not as close with. So like we weren't joking around ahead of time, and that's on me too, to like sort of just be around the guys and be like part of the group and like, make the atmosphere good. But if I work with like Mike DeVore, who and like has been on this pod a bunch, like I'm we're fucking around so much before the show that like you're going up trying to hold back your laughter going on stage. Like you happen to have this act that you're doing, but like you've been like you're throwing hypotheticals of ridiculous shit you could do up there, and like you get into this because you like it's a fun thing to be doing. So like yes, you need to learn the technical stuff, and like you can never stop learning that. But if you're not having fun, like you're gonna come off as flat. And that's what happened to me last night. I get up there, I'm like 3 minutes into my set, I'm like, I'm doing an act right now. Like this is not what I got into this for. Like I these people aren't gonna like me probably anyway. Like I don't have that much in common with a lot of these people. Like they work I mean, they live a life that's safe constantly, and that's totally fine. But like I just don't see eye to eye with it, and my material matches that, and like I'm challenging some things. So I'm doing that and I'm flat, and it's like 3 minutes in, I got off stage, I'm like, okay, I'm not doing that again. Like that sucked, bro. But it's a constant learning thing. And then I think it's funny because it's like, let go, have fun, trust your instincts, and be around people that you enjoy, and shit will start happening. But like,
Yep.
if it's, what it makes me think of is what you said about being in the group. Like, you don't do this shit by yourself. Like, you don't go in there and fight on your own. Like, you got to find the people that you align well with, that make this, challenging but still rewarding and fun, and just like enjoy the path. Because if you don't, you're the lone wolf who's like trying to figure out all the angles and meet the right people and network and all this shit, and you're not fun to work with. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's a relationship business. Like there's
is.
not that many people. Like everybody knows everybody, and if you have a reputation for being a shitty person to work with because you're, I don't know, obsessed with yourself or whatever, like there's a lot of bad people in entertainment. So it's just not being one of them, I think, is probably the best thing you can do. But
yeah, that's my goal. I mean, be a good guy, stay true to myself, and wherever that takes me is where I'll be, and have fun along the way. If that brings no results, I'm fine with that. If it brings huge results, I'm fine with that. That sounds like a good life to me. Have fun, be true to yourself, build relationships with people that you enjoy being around, and man, that's a win.
all right.
All right.
Dude, thanks so much for coming on. If you do get the Twitch thing going, let me know. I'll drop it for all the listeners. And just want to say thanks everyone again for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to share this podcast with a friend and to rate and subscribe to us. Also, please don't forget to follow us on Instagram at FNF Pod. We're going to leave you with Jaga.
I just make the waves, I don't write them. I can hear the lyrics in my spirit as I write them. Why you wanna walk and talk just like them? I can't get caught up in all the hype and the excitement. I just make the waves, I don't write them. I can hear the lyrics in my spirit as I write them. Why you wanna walk and talk just like them? I can't get caught up in all the hype and the excitement. My wave pool, my wave pool. Welcome to 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 my wave pool, my wave pool. Yeah. Welcome to my pool, so wavy. Everything goes so smooth, so gravy. Don't need to be told to love and who hates me.